Hey guys, today we're stepping into a time machine and heading back to 1859. Imagine a world of candlelit rooms, tarp hats, and pure, raw, human intellect. This isn't just any game from the Romantic era. This is Paul Morphy, a man who saw the chessboard differently than anyone else in history. And today he's about to pull off something that defies logic. Before a single move is played, Morphy reaches over to his queenside and removes his knight from b1. Just takes it off the board. Gone. He's giving his opponent, Thomas Jefferson Bryan, a well-known New York amateur, a full-piece handicap. Morphy is going to play this entire game down a knight. And not only does he wins with one of the most beautiful checkmates in chess history. Let's get into it. So Morphy opens with e4. Bryan plays e5, and Morphy brings out the knight to f3. His only knight, by the way. Bryan develops the knight to c6, and now Morphy plays bishop to c4, the Italian game setup, targeting that f7 square right next to black's king. Bryan responds with bishop to c5, a completely natural developing move, and here's where Morphy makes a stunning decision. He plays b4. That's the Evans Gambit. He's already down a full knight, and now he's offering up a pawn too. He's essentially saying, take my pawn, take my knight, I don't care. I'm going to come for your king. Bryan accepts with bishop takes b4, and Morphy follows up with c3, kicking the bishop. The bishop retreats to c5, and Morphy castles kingside. Already his king is safe, his rook is connected to the center, and he's building a massive attack, all with one fewer piece than his opponent. Bryan plays d6, a solid developing move, and now Morphy strikes in the center with d4. This is the whole point of the Evans Gambit. You sacrifice the b-pawn to build a huge pawn center and blast open lines for your pieces. The bishop drops back to b6 and the center opens up. d4 takes e5, d6 takes e5. Now the position is wide open, and that's exactly where Morphy thrives. Now Morphy plays queen to b3. But here's the thing about Morphy. He doesn't want an equal endgame. He wants your king. And queen b3 puts immediate pressure on an f7, the two most vulnerable points in black's position. Bryan responds with queen to f6. Queen f6 defends the f7 pawn and keeps an eye on the center. It's a reasonable human choice. Morphy now plays bishop to b5, pinning along that diagonal and putting pressure on the c6 knight. Bryan develops the bishop to e6. Again, a natural move, but the engine points out that knight to e7 was stronger here, keeping pieces more coordinated. These are very subtle differences. 1859, without any computer analysis, these are incredibly difficult decisions to make over the board. Morphy plays queen to a4, repositioning the queen and keeping the pressure up. And now Bryan plays knight to e7, trying to reroute and consolidate. Here comes the critical moment. Morphy plays bishop to g5, Bryan's queen goes to g6 trying to escape, and now Morphy executes a very important sequence. Bishop takes on e7, the king is forced to recapture. King takes e7, and just like that, black can never castle again. The king is stuck in the center of the board with no pawn shelter, no safety, nothing. In the Romantic era of chess, this is a death sentence. Morphy follows up with bishop takes c6, removing Bryan's last knight and opening the b file. Bryan recaptures with the b-pawn, b takes c6, and now Morphy plays knight takes e5. He's won back the pawn he sacrificed in the Evans Gambit, and his knight is sitting on a dominant central square. Despite starting the game down an entire piece, Morphy is now only down the knight odds piece, and his position is overwhelmingly better. Bryan plays queen to f6, and Morphy plays knight takes c6 check. The king has to move, and here is where the game is decided. Bryan plays king to f8. This looks natural, tuck the king into the corner, get away from danger. That's not a small shift, that's the difference between a difficult position and a completely lost game. King to e8 was necessary, keeping options open and making the mating attack much harder to execute. But Bryan walks right into the storm. Morphy plays e5. This pawn push is incredibly strong. It gains space, opens lines for the rook, and restricts black's pieces even further. Bryan's queen goes to g5, trying to find activity, and Morphy calmly plays h4, pushing the queen again. The queen retreats to g4, she has no good squares left, and now the masterpiece begins. Morphy plays queen to a3 check. The king can only go to g8, and now knight to e7 check. The king is forced to f8, knight to g6 check. A discovered check would work too, but the beauty here is in the geometry. The king goes back to g8, it's bouncing between g8 and f8 with nowhere to hide. And now, queen takes f8. Morphy sacrifices his queen. He gives up the most powerful piece on the board. The rook on a8 is forced to capture. Rook takes f8. And the knight comes back, knight to e7. Checkmate. It's a smothered mate. The king on g8 is completely surrounded by its own pieces, the rook on f8, pawns everywhere, and the knight on e7 delivers the final blow. There is no escape. The king cannot move to any square. Poor Morphy wins in 23 moves, starting the game without his queenside knight. He gave a full piece handicap, played the Evans Gambit, sacrificing another pawn, attacked relentlessly from the opening, dragged the enemy king out into the open, and finished with a queen sacrifice into smothered checkmate. No computers, no preparation databases, no engine analysis, just pure raw genius. So what can we learn from this game? First, piece activity is worth more than material. Morphy was down a full knight from move 1, but every single one of his remaining pieces was more active, more coordinated, and more dangerous than Bryan's extra piece. That's a lesson that applies at every level of chess. Second, king's safety is everything. The moment Bryan's king was stuck in the center after king takes e7, the game was essentially decided. If you can't castle, you'd better have a very good reason for it. Third, tactical pattern recognition wins games. That final sequence, queen sacrifice into smothered mate, is one of the most famous patterns in all of chess. Learn it, recognize it, and one day you'll get to play it in your own games. And finally, this is what chess looked like before computers existed. Every decision was made by the human mind alone. And that's what makes classical chess so beautiful. Morphy didn't need an engine to tell him this attack was winning. He just saw it. That's genius. Thanks for watching, guys. Drop a comment and let me know what's the most beautiful checkmate you've ever seen in your own games. I'll see you in the next one.